So, tonight's the night that I'm finally getting to watch 28 Years Later. So, I don't know. I haven't looked up any spoilers. I haven't done anything about this yet. I was a big fan of the movie series as a kid. Big fan of just the direction, the art style, the way that they put together the movies with no budget. I'm big on indie films. I'm big on making more out of less, I guess you could say. And so creating a channel on YouTube and creating a channel on TikTok, one of the things I wanted to do was just kind of share and express my opinions and beliefs and my love for films. And this is one of the series that I wanted to start with because I'm about to watch the new movie tonight. Woo! And so I just wanted to give some reasons of why I love this franchise and some different things that many people probably don't know about it. And then I'm also going to do a review on the movie itself. And I guess kind of like a review of the series as an overview going into a new trilogy, which I thought was an interesting choice to end a trilogy with a new trilogy. But Danny Boyle, Alex Garland, films make money. What can you say? But so we have 28 Days Later, released in the UK in 2002, released in the US in 2003. 28 Weeks Later, released in the UK and the US in 2007. And then now, June 20th, 2025, 28 years later. We got January 16th, 2026 is when they're saying the Bone Temple comes out. So with that, I guess we can just kind of go into the facts that not a lot of people know about this movie series. So the idea for the movie series, apparently, actually, from multiple sources, says that it came from just Danny Boyle sitting down in a pizza parlor talking to his producers. They were looking for different movie scripts, ideas that Danny Boyle was coming up with, and after he had just finished The Beach, I assume he was looking for his next thing, and he was like, well, look, what about zombies? Like everyone loves zombies. It was a big thing right then, at that point in time. So obviously he drew a lot of inspiration on Night of the Living Dead. But, yeah, so you can thank pizza for the reason we have 28 Days Later. So, one of the things that he said was he was actually getting into gaming at the time, and he was playing a lot of Resident Evil, and that's the reason for the fast zombies. Quick note on that, they're actually not zombies, I don't think, in 28 Days Later, 28 Weeks Later, etc. They're actually infected with something called the Rage virus, which, if you know anything about viruses and diseases, that's scary stuff. There's actually a disease, I think, I'll have to look up what country it is, but it's a plant-based virus that can actually be transmitted to humans, sort of like the Last of Us. That's causing a big stir right now over there on that part of the world, so pretty interesting stuff there. Many of the scenes that were iconic from 28 Days Later apparently were recorded early in the morning. That way they could kind of throw trash on the set and make it look dystopian, make it look like not lived in. And kudos to the people of the UK for actually staying off the street long enough to get a whole production done. That's some pretty intense time frames, I'm sure. Multiple endings were filmed for 28 Days Later, and later on the theatric ending was selected. I couldn't really find out why they used the ending that they did, and I haven't really been able to tell if there's a difference in the ending between the UK version and the US version. I know personally from watching US and UK based movies, if you watch the US version and you watch the UK version, it's probably always going to have a happy ending in the US version, or an ending that is more likely to be acceptable by a broader range of audiences. Whereas the UK version tends to be a little bit more, gritty, a little bit more down to earth. This is probably how it actually happened. A great movie that I can think of right off the top of my head that had that was Eden Lake. I do not suggest, if you are faint of the heart, to watch the movie. But it being an indie film, it's one of those UK films that when it came to America, people were like, this movie sucks. And it's it's a cult classic, though, for a reason, kind of. I mean, I wouldn't say cult classic, but it's got some culty, gangy, vibes, and it's very hard to watch, I guess you could say. So the theatric ending, I guess, was used to kind of promote happy, happy go go. There's going to be a sequel, but happy go go. 28 weeks later, add a new director, apparently due to timing issues, which personally I feel like caused indirect negative reviews prior to the movie being released. Anytime that a movie series changes directors in the middle of a movie series, especially when they have scripts or promotion or marketing dedicated towards like, hey, look, your favorite director is doing this movie, and then they change it at the end, it's like a rug getting pulled out from underneath of you. People don't like that. So I feel like that's kind of where that came from. Don wasn't just an alpha-like zombie out of luck. He apparently was chosen specifically by Danny Boyle because of his experience on set with Trainspotting and The Beach. So script intelligence plays a lot when directors and producers are coming together and choosing cast, I'm assuming. You know, if you're just a guy standing in the background, an extra, it's probably a lot different than if you're going to be one of the main characters. They probably do kind of have like a list, you know what I mean? Like, these are the people I've worked with, these are the people that kind of get the way that I direct. If you can get them, then I'm on board. So there's that. Some of us probably could tell. I've read some Charles Dickens in my life, just through educational adventures and then just life. Charles Dickens and his novels were apparently used to kind of create like the hellscape that was London. 28 weeks after being abandoned, no work being done, no military presence, no nothing. So they kind of used his books as inspiration. After the movie was filmed, in a mere 2 months, the whole production staff had to basically finish and do like over 400 CG scenes, which I don't know much about CGI or video editing. I'm trying to get into that, but I do know that CGI, there's a reason that we're going towards AI creation when it comes to CGI and everything, and that's mostly to do with like, it saves money, it saves time, and CG is very apparently difficult to make happen in a short amount of time. So there's that. A movement specialist was apparently hired and used on scene for 28 weeks later, whereas 28 days later was just a bunch of dudes like coming together and being like, hey, this is how they're gonna like move. This is how they're gonna act. The movement specialist was used in the new film as well. So they kind of expanded on that. Obviously, like, filmography has grown a lot in the last few years, and so a lot of these creatives, a lot of these people that have specialized and focused their niche job force in creating more atmospheric and immersive movies, this is starting to pay off, because I can tell you just from like my personal eyesight, like 28 years later or 28 days later compared to 28 weeks later, like it is a big difference in the acting ability and the believability of what you're seeing on screen. Actually, I think a camcorder was used for most of the scenes in 28 days later. Like, it was an expensive camcorder, like the camcorder of the 90s pretty much. And then that's why it was straight to DVD rips. You know what I mean? When the movie came out, was because it was like, look, man, it's already on DVR. Like, just hand out these CD tapes and get the movie out there. Let's see. The trailer for 28 Years Later is actually promoted with a poem that's 122 years old, and the poem was meant to, I think, increase like marching dedication, I guess, during a really pivotal time in history. So there's that. Psychological marketing. Custom film rigs were employed throughout the whole movie, so there's that as well. And then the filming for the sequels and several scenes from 28 Years Later have been cut and are being used in the Bone Temple. So filming is already underway, but they've got a lot of what they already needed from filming 28 Years Later, which is very smart from a directorial standpoint. Could bite you in the butt as well. But yeah, so I'm excited to watch this tonight. My girlfriend's a huge fan of the series as well. She had never seen the series before we got together, so this is something that she got to experience new, just us together. And I don't know, I'm excited to see it. I will post a review, and then I will like kind of encapsulate like a short review for the series as where we stand as a fan base on it, just from my perspective. But yeah, I'd love to hear how my first video went and how this plays out, and I'll update later. Thanks, guys.